Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Good evening. I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. I'm glad that you're here. As you know, as always, we'd like you to like, share, and comment. We love the comments from our viewers. We have two wonderful authors all the way from Britain today, and we can't wait until they come on. I just want to remind you that we are now on TV. We are live on stream, and you can watch Variety Unlimited, LGBTQ Friends, and Paranormal View. All of those things are things that we're doing. Oh, hello, Paul. Glad to see you again. Paul says, hi, Rob and Joan. Hi, everyone. Another good show, Paul.
And this is our last UK Authors Night, by the way.
For a while.
At least for a while, probably for the summer. But we're really happy to have two really insightful guests with us tonight. Yeah. The second half of the show, we're going to have mystery writer Carol YEOMANSON on. She writes mysteries of all the way from cozy to gritty, and she has a lot to say about her books and her career. But first, we're going to be talking with ROMCOM and anti-bullying advocate JUDE HASTE. Really has a lot to say, too, about really current issues. And so we're going to bring Jude on right now.
Hello.
Hi, Jude.
Hi, Jude. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Glad to see you.
Glad you could make it.
Me too. Hello, Trish. We're glad to see you too. Yes. So I should give everyone a heads up. Jude has some really important things to say in her books and herself.
I knew that was coming.
You know what? Look at this, Jude. Hey,
Hi,
Jude.
Paul.
You knew it.
You knew it from Paul.
Hi,
Someone had to say it, Paul.
Yeah, Paul. That's logical that Paul would say it, right?
Hi, Barbara. We're glad that you're here. Lost my train. Oh, yeah. No, this is serious now.
Oh,
that's right. Jude is going to be talking about bullying in the workplace. Some of us might call it abuse. I myself would call it abuse. And so just a heads up, if that's going to be triggering for anyone, we'll, just wanted to let you know. But as always, this is a safe space where people can talk about how they feel and whether they feel they've been marginalized or not. Enough said.
So, Jude, you're ROMCOM. You write ROMCOMs. And
I do indeed. Yes, I do.
And they have a current issue, all of them, and you keep them current. Kind of tell us about your writing, about your how you're working that in together, ROMCOM and issues like that.
I got into writing because I'd moved abroad, and I joined a company. And it was my experience of workplace bullying at that company that led me to realize that I needed to have in my life a creative release so that all the negativity that was coming at me in quite an aggressive way was put somewhere. And that's because I have a young family at home, and I certainly don't want to go back home in an anxious state. My kids need my time as their mother. And I think bullying in the workplace, bosses in particular, seem to think it stays in that area. And then we all go home and we forget about it. And some of the things that they say to you are very personal. Some of those things they say are very sort of, it feels at the time quite threatening, and it leaves you in this anxious state. And certainly I think when any of us go into a job, it never occurs to us to think, how is this company going to look after and manage my mental health? You just it doesn't come into your head. You're thinking about other issues. But I've certainly, after what I experienced, I think it should be something, and it's certainly something I think about now quite a lot when I put myself back in the workplace.
Well, it's something you definitely take home with you, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, you want to or not. I just want to acknowledge Joe. He's glad to be here live. He's been watching the shows after they've been recorded. So, Joe, we're thrilled that you can finally catch us live.
Yeah.
And we love the comments, so keep them coming.
Joe's an author, and he's going to be on our show coming up in September.
Yeah. Well, it's a very important issue, Jude. And I think that you do the rom-com to take the sting out of it, but yet still bring in the severity of the issue. Am I right when I assume that?
Yes, you are. You're certainly right. It was certainly a very hard thing for me to write about, because when I was writing initially, I was just writing for myself. It was a creative, therapeutic release for me. But then I realized that workplace bullying, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just something that happened in the country that I found myself in, because it didn't happen to me in the United Kingdom. But I feel that it's something that needs to be highlighted a lot more because of the mental health impacts it has on people, leaving them in an anxious state, leaving them questioning themselves and their abilities. And that has an impact on not just themselves, but on their families. And so I was very aware, certainly when I was dealing with it on a daily basis, that it's not just your boss coming in, having a bad day, saying and taking his temper out on you. It's not like that. It's a very psychological thing. So that they're quite controlling. You get called over to an office, you are told what to, even though you've been called over, you're expected to wait until they're ready to see you. And in my book, Toxic, which is where I personally had to, as a writer, take on the role of the boss. It was one of my biggest challenges. And the lady there, I wanted my audience to see the bigger picture. I wanted them not just to see her in the workplace. I wanted them to see her when she comes home, how she interacts with her friends, what sort of person she was. So, because we're all human beings, we're all somebody's mother or daughter or sister. We all have value as people. And certainly I didn't feel like I was being valued in the place that I found myself working in. And in this lady's case, and in my case, you know, you're a senior manager, you're expected, I would imagine, in any company to make decisions and to take action, and people do those things. But whenever I did it, it was suddenly a huge issue. It was like the sky had fallen in. I'd taken some action. Suddenly I needed to be summoned to his office and explain myself. And with the lady in the story, when she goes into the boss's office, it's like they engage you in a conversation about work-related issues, and then the conversation suddenly changes and it becomes quite strange and off-task and quite personal. And you feel like there's power and authority games going on. And when I talk about emotional intelligence, I'm talking about the ability to manage your emotions in the workplace, because as an employee, when you go to work, you leave all your family issues at home and you are professional at all times. But it's likewise, when you're at work, you're expecting people to be professional to you, you know, not swearing at you, not saying that you make everybody miserable, not questioning lifestyle choices you make. So
especially from somebody in authority.
Yeah.
And you're dependent on that job. So, you know, that raises to the level of abuse, I think we would say here in the United States. Trish says, I think this is great that you're speaking out about this. Mental health is so important, and a toxic work environment is damaging. And I think that's the point that Jude is making, that it is damaging. And James said, you sure have that right. And yes, you do. You sure do have that right. It's wonderful that you're talking out about it and that you're explaining what emotional intelligence is, and that you want to go in there and you want to be emotionally intelligent, but you expect the respect to be a two-way street, right?
Absolutely, because what people value in the workplace, as I came across it, was being clever. And I understand, getting qualifications makes you clever. But emotional intelligence, everybody takes it for granted. We've all got the ability to be emotionally intelligent, but some people do not apply this ability. And some people, unfortunately, will behave in a very unprofessional manners that leaves you feeling quite isolated, but also unsafe. And certainly in my experience, when I reached out for assistance from people who oversaw the work that my boss did, as explained in the novel Toxic, the response from the boss, the people that oversaw his work, they called the Board of Governors, was to give him the letter I wrote. And I found myself back in his office with him and the letter I'd written, which I had written because the code of conduct in that company had said, if you've got a grievance, please write to the Board of Governors. Well, I did that. And then that's how I was treated. I had to go straight back to the person who I was feeling aggrieved about. And that had, huge implications for the whole company, because I realized the whole company is not safe if that is how they are dealing with procedures that they've put into a code of conduct book.
Joe says, my daughter is going through a toxic time in her work environment now. Her mother and I have been helping her manage the emotional aspect. I'm very sorry to hear that, Joe.
Yeah, I am as well.
Yeah.
Your cover for Toxic, can you explain, tell us a little bit about the cover?
Sure, I will. I'm happy to explain that. I don't know if you can see a little piece of that on.
Yes, we can. Let me take the cover down so people can see it better. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, I put two pieces of, got tattooed, two pieces of barbed wire on my arm because I was unable to express myself. I felt very suppressed in my work environment. So I thought, I want to show people visually the pain that I feel every day, having to go in and every day being sort of made to feel like anything I had to say was always a huge disaster. And also feeling villainized, it wasn't so much victimized, but villainized. I was the big villain. And it's not within me to do that. And within that company, I would like to say that I did forge some lovely, lovely friendships with people. And it was unfortunate that, when I left, I didn't really get a chance to say goodbye to these people, because I do think of them, and they embraced me. And I feel it's what inspired me at the time to keep going and looking out for other people who were in vulnerable positions, because I know that my emotional intelligence can take a lot. I can take a lot. I mean, I've worked in teaching for years. Teenagers aren't always the easiest kids. And so, they tell you exactly how they feel. But I manage my emotions. I manage them in the classroom, and I manage them, hopefully, in other aspects of my life. I value it. I really do. People, you see people lose their temper. What is it doing? And particularly when you're dealing with children, they need to realize you're a stable person for them. And that was a big thing for me, because children come from all sorts of different backgrounds, and you're that stable figure they can come to and unburden themselves if they wish, tell you what's going on with them. And they know they're going to have a reassuring answer, something that makes them feel safe. And I think it's the same when you're working with adults as well. Adults want to know that they're in a safe space.
Absolutely.
And if you're not feeling like you're in a safe space, then you get very anxious.
Thank you. It's forcing her to start looking elsewhere for employment, which is too bad because she loves what she does. And that is the problem, right, Jude? Because that's exactly what you had to do. You couldn't change that situation.
Unfortunately, I worked there for years, so I went through some very anxious times, and I don't know how long Joe's daughters worked there for, but what you're meant to do is you're meant to have a code of conduct book wherever she's working.
Right.
And then you refer to that, and they tell you how to follow the procedures.
Right.
Now, in my case, that just didn't, it may as well not
have been.
Work. No, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful that in other companies it does. And I would suggest to Joe that his daughter goes down that route, because
that would be going to HR here in the States. That's
okay.
That's
and
what
hopefully Because when I wrote my letter to the Board of Governors, what I was expecting to happen was that one of them would come into a meeting with me and my boss.
That's what
with
should
the
happen.
intermediate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely is right.
So that everybody felt that they knew their boundaries, that they knew, because you're going into an office and you're sitting there by yourself with this man. I mean, that's the bottom line.
He needed training on what would be. Oh, she's in the process of doing that now, going to HR. I know that where I work, Joe, we had HR was really on top of that, and we had training programs actually for people in management on how they couldn't talk to an employee, and also the best way to talk to employees about issues and what have you. And one thing is you don't attack the person's personality. That's, I mean, you are who you are, you know.
I know.
And it has nothing to do with your work ethic.
Absolutely. I agree.
Oh, so Barbara says she went through sexual harassment case with his supervisor. It was horrific. They gave him a warning, etc. And not a month later, he was fired for calling he was fired for calling a female coworker the C word, which he won't say on the air, to another female coworker. That's terrible.
Right.
Okay, let's see. My job, Trish says this, my job is stressful, but my company has very strict rules about conduct. We just spent a week on inclusion and diversity training. And my job also when I was working was the same way. We had training all the time, everyone in management, on what you could and couldn't say and the best way to approach a situation. So and believe me, people went to HR quickly.
Yeah. They do too.
I mean, certainly people who have criticized when I'm talking about workplace bullying, they like to jump on the word stress and say, well, you shouldn't be so disgruntled because your work is stressful. But that's not my point at all. And they're missing the mark completely. Whenever we go into work, we know there is going to be stress.
Right.
We know that. And sometimes, you know, stress helps you keep on your toes. It can be quite invigorating in a way. And I like to be a very busy person at work. So the more stress you want to pile on me, that's fine. It's when I remember when I was out there and I was thinking, the rules here aren't fair. You know, that was the problem. Mm-hmm. And I had this very British expression in my head at the time, which was, this isn't cricket. You know, that's what I was thinking a lot of the time, because you need to be in sort of control of what you're doing. And when people are taking away that control, it leaves you just lost, completely lost. So
also unsure of yourself, and it's hard to do your job. It's hard to do your best.
It's impossible to do your job because every time you open your mouth, it's a problem. Mm-hmm. Anything you suggest, it's an issue. So you get pulled in and pulled in. And certainly in the toxic, the lady kept getting disciplinary letters all the time from the boss. And it was very disheartening for her. He would have meetings with her. He would make sure that she felt completely undermined. And so that staff that you oversee don't bother coming to see you anymore, because what's the point? I don't blame them for that, because whenever you're trying to assist and help, the whole control of the situation is taken out of your hands, and you're made to feel that you're trying to do something which isn't right. But actually, if you're a senior manager, you're expected to make decisions and take action. Right. So it's not that you've just somebody off the street who's come through the door. You've went through an interview, you were screened at various things, and then you come across. Yeah,
they're the ones that say this is what you can expect.
And they're the ones
absolutely.
And they're the ones that are. So that's what you expect. Let's put a bookmark in this. I want to come back to this. Let's get your book giveaway out there so that people have time to respond. The book giveaway is the first 5 people to email will win an ebook of their choice from Jude's Amazon author page. So you'll get a chance to go and pick a book from there. And she's going to talk about a couple more books as well. But we'll leave that up there. And if you want to go back now to...
well, just a second. Let me say that Jude's email is judehaste1967@gmail.com, and that's JUDEHASTE1967. So the first 5 to email that will get the book of their choice, and you can find those on Amazon, on her Amazon page. Easy to do. You can find Jude also in LinkedIn. Search Jude Haste and click on the one that says GB.
Next to it. Yeah.
Next to it. Yeah, there's lots of Jude Haste, the one with GB. Goodreads, you can find her on author/show/1537516.Jude_Haste.
That's a long one.
Yeah. But a lot of people go to Goodreads. So
That's right. That's a big.
And yeah. And then you can find her on Twitter at JudeHaste_right, which I find her there all the time. And you can look her up very easily. All right. So now everyone that's listening, you can reach her at any of these places. Go ahead. You said you'd bookmark that.
Yeah. Go ahead and
finish your thought. If we haven't taken it away from you completely.
Unless you want to talk about the other couple of books there that.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
You've got
Jay Walker.
Jay Walker and Welcome to Sochi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Jay Walker, any of my books that have on their blurb about the workplace, it will be a connection to workplace bullying. But I don't always write about workplace bullying because I also I find it very intensive. Putting myself in the shoes of a boss who's narcissistic is quite emotionally overwhelming, even though I do it in a comic way. I do it in a comic way because for me, certainly humor and laughter is the best medicine. Jay Walker is quite, I said it in America, in New York. And that's because, as I said before, workplace bullying can happen all around the world. It wasn't specific to the area I was in. And I also said another one, which I'm very proud of as well, in India. And it was very interesting to deal with the Indian culture and the Indian way of looking at romance as well. So in Jay Walker, it's the elements of the power and control. A bully needs people around him that buy into what they're saying. It's not just one person. And certainly in the case of the situation I found myself in, there were other people who would sort of fan his flames, so to speak. And he could put himself up on this pedestal and act in a very traditional way as a boss. When I look back over the years and you hear about bosses who think because they're clever and they're at the top of their tree, that everybody else is beneath them. And certainly in Jay Walker, that was the experience. So I developed this character that I called the sidekick, and she and the boss together were sort of at this team that they felt were above everybody else. And so she's basically told at the start of the story that if she wants to maintain her position at the company, she needs to ship up or shape out. Shape up or ship out, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Right.
That's good. I do that all the time.
Me too.
Yeah. So in order to shape up, they put her in another part of the company, which is abroad, which is in the States. And she goes there and she meets a whole different mindset of people, even though it's the same company. The boss there, when she eventually meets him, she is full of dread at meeting the boss. But he's a totally much more chilled out character, much more inspiring character, and a much more warm-hearted character as well. Because certainly, with bosses, I've worked for some fabulous bosses over the years, who've really inspired and motivated me when I'm feeling down in the workplace. And it's because they know that it's a team effort at the end of the day, in whatever situation you're in. And certainly when we've had this pandemic with the virus, and we've all been so dependent on the hospitals, it was the cleaners of those hospitals that kept the whole show going for the nurses to do their jobs, for the doctors to do their jobs. So every single member of that hospital team was so valuable as ever, but in this particular case, it was essential.
Yeah.
And I really admire everybody who obviously help people going through tough times during this pandemic, which we've just come out of. But life sort of throws things at you in general. So you really don't need someone to step in and start mucking around with your mental health. That affects your mindset. That affects how you then go on to interact with other people. So that's why I'm writing the books about it. And as I said, not all of them about it. I remember I got a review for Knockout where they wanted, where's the workplace bullying? And I'm like, I need to emphasize more that it's not all of my books that deal with workplace bullying, because I need a break.
Yeah. And then I just did want to put up again the, went to the wrong thing. Wait a minute. We've got a comment here. Oh, Chanel.
Hi, Chanel.
How are you, Chanel? Chanel said, I hate being a boss, but I'm told I'm good at it. Ugh. I'm scared of hurting others, but I guess my bluntness makes it easier. Yeah, I think it's good to have a good boss, Chanel. And I think, I managed people in my job, and we had name tags where I worked. And I remember one time the 4 girls that were under my care all came in wearing tags that said Jones Minions. Because I was a bossy boss. But it was in good fun. I laughed hysterically. They all had a good time, and they wore it. I think they wore them for the whole week. And all of our customers enjoyed it too. But yeah, you have to give direction to people.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between directing people and helping them to do their job other than attacking people personally. And that's what we're talking about, is that these were personal attacks. And as you've been talking, I'm thinking this is something that happens everywhere, not just in the workplace. It can be domestic. It can be in a religious institution. It can be in the playground at school. It can be in the schoolroom, and
but certainly in my books, I refer to, I use the term the boss. And I think in real life, we like leaders, don't we? We like leaders who can lead us along in a safe way. But the boss is a very old-fashioned term. The boss, as you just said, is bossy. And that is all they are. They're just bossy. And to stand up to bullies, and I knew that on occasion I had to do that, when something became really made me feel uncomfortable, I would get up and I would just say, I don't feel comfortable in this meeting anymore. This has personally upset me. I'm now leaving. And I would do that because I knew, even though he could be very intimidating with his body language, I certainly knew as an employee, there are boundaries. And if he's going to cross them, I'm allowed to leave the office.
Absolutely. Like you said, they're not allowed to use foul language or to be intimidating or anything like that. That's uncalled for. You just can't stand
no
for
place
that.
for that.
So get busy, people. Get 3 meals in. Go ahead.
Sorry, with Jay Walker, then she's dealing with the American people and the American way of life, and I had to sort of do a bit of research into that because I haven't been. And one of the things that comes across in the book is that she's quite sarcastic, and it seems to sit well with the American sarcasm. So she actually ends up finding that she fits in there quite nicely. And
have you not noticed that speaking with Rob and I?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you feel very at ease because sarcasm it's like a form of defense for her. You know, everybody's in her face, so she can be sarcastic back. You are a person, as I said before, we've all got feelings. And, when you're trashing somebody, making them feel inadequate, it's something that stays with them. And when I left that job, I had to process a lot of information in my head. And again, my writing really, really was very therapeutic for me. And anybody I would, sort of, if they're going through adverse times in any sort of relationship, to find something that makes you happy is so important. It takes you out of yourself. It takes you out of yourself for a bit. You do have to go and face that again. And obviously things like counseling and communicating with people you trust, all those things are very, very important. But with counseling, first of all, it can be very expensive for people. And also you have to wait a long time till you actually get to see one. So in the meantime, try and be creative. Try and find your happy place. Because I had to think back to why I turned to writing. And I seem to remember way back in my childhood, I really enjoyed writing essays at school. It was something that I could go off in this little fantasy world. And nobody judged you there, you know. Everybody, you had your voice, you expressed yourself. And I think obviously that's why I turned to writing. But for other people, it might be art, it might be swimming, it might be something more physical.
Yeah.
But I would urge people, if they're sitting at home now and they are depressed, to do something that makes them happy.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's like finding the fun in life again when life has not been fun.
Right. We all need some fun after this last year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely.
The beach is my happy place.
That's lovely. That's a really nice thing.
I can just go and sit there and listen to the waves, and I feel a lot much better. Actually, just being out in nature is my happy place.
So, certainly with
Jude, Paul says, excellent discussion. Thank you.
People feel victims of things, but then they their mind does move forward, and then they feel like survivors, and then they go on to feel like warriors. But it's a process, and it's a very individual process. I know a lot of people around me felt that when I'd finished my job, I must now be okay. And I wasn't. I wasn't okay. I had so much processing to do about myself as a person, about how I dealt with situations. And a lot of that I brought up in Welcome to Soji, because Welcome to Soji, it's a comedy. Primarily, it's a comedy, and there isn't workplace bullying, I don't think, in it. At the very start, there's a small amount. But it's about a woman who loses her job and loses her relationship. And the comedy element, which isn't actually particularly funny, but is that it happened within the same week, nearly on the same day. So she finds herself sort of stranded, and she has to rebuild her life again. And in the process of doing that, she goes on a journey on an aeroplane, and the aeroplane gets lost. And it's sort of like she's got lost in her life, and now the aeroplane was getting lost because the navigation equipment had gone. But Welcome to Soji was a huge turning point for me. I felt I had pitched my comedy and my romance at areas that I felt quite proud of. So I went on to write Return to Soji after that.
Oh, Jude, did you see this? Chanel, this is beautiful.
Yes.
My son says I'm a bossy mom, and he loves your voice, Miss Haste. He's 10 and autistic, so your sound being so pleasant is a high compliment. Yes, it is.
So thank you very much. Big hugs to him.
Yeah, what's his name so we can say hi to him, Chanel? And good for you being a boss at work and being the mom of an autistic child. That's a lot of work right there.
Is. So Jude, I don't know whether it was clear to everybody, but your becoming a writer was produced out of your
troubles.
Experience and your trouble, correct?
Absolutely.
That's what drove you into it, and helped be a release for you, correct?
I just want to say hi, Jackson.
Hi, Jackson.
Can you
Hello,
say
Jackson?
Yeah.
Hi
so the lady with the nice
Hi
voice
from London.
Yeah, all the way from London.
Okay, well, we have to take a break. And we've got to get our second guest on here. We've got to bring Carol in.
I just want to remind people you can email Jude and go on to Amazon and take a pic of any one of her books, and she'll send you an e-copy. And I wanted to say again, you've got to read the covers, because we've talked about the serious stuff, but when you read the covers, you're going to see that these are really very funny books and funny stories, and told in a very funny way. Right,
and Jude's not going anywhere. She'll be
us
on the screen here and join us toward the end of the show as well. So hang in there, folks. We're going to take a couple-minute break, and
we'll be right back.
Be right back.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the Merchandise tab, and bam! There you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
At Indie Booksource, you can shop by genre or by author, and you will be buying direct from the author's main purchase link. We offer hundreds of titles in formats that include ebooks, paperback, hardbound, and audiobook. Support an indie author. Visit indiebooksource.com today.
In a world where advancing technology is outpacing crime solving, the O'Rourke team continues their relentless pursuit of justice. Bioprints is the first book in the O'Rourke crime novel series where it's high-tech crime versus old-fashioned detective work. Visit carternovels.com or amazon.com and check out Bioprints today.
WLFE Digital Broadcast Network presents Variety Unlimited Television. Watch shows like Meet the Author Podcast, The Bipolar DM, Just Cindy, Card Pulls and Coffee, Unfiltered Talk with Bryce, and more. That's right, our shows are your shows on WLFE Digital Broadcast Network. And now, back to the show. Hello, Carol.
Welcome, Carol.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
It's quite late there. You're staying awake, though, hey?
I'm wide awake.
I have
That's
one
good.
more little comment for Jude. And James says, hang in there, Jude. I think she's in a good place now. Paul Hollis says, hi, Carol.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
So, Carol, you write mysteries, and it's been described as a range from cozy all the way to gritty mystery crime
Thrillers.
kind of books, thrillers, right?
Mhm.
I do. That's right.
And how did you get started?
Good question.
Perhaps you have a good answer.
Ooh.
I think I was always the kid at school that liked to write stories. And that's when I started. And then later in life, I got married and I had my son and I wrote a book. And I didn't know what to do with the book. And on Facebook, I got a friend, a lovely man called Dennis Michaels. And he said via Facebook, oh, you've written a book. Let me have a look at it. And if I think it's any good, I'll tell you how to become an indie author. And that's what he did. He said, I'll show you how to self-publish. And that's what he did. And that's how I became an indie author. And that's it. Here I am.
There
And
you
I
go.
wrote, it was called The Dark Side of Midnight, I think it's called. There she goes. And that's, no, it's actually called The Dark Side of Innocence.
Oh, okay.
It's actually called The Dark Side of Innocence. That was my first book. And I just went from there. And although I'm an author, an indie author, I just think of myself as a storyteller because that's what I do in my novels. I tell stories.
Right.
And that's how it all started. And sadly, my lovely Dennis Michaels, who remained a friend, died last year.
Oh, that's
And that's how I got started.
yeah.
But I understand he was quite, back in the day, a famous folk singer in the US.
Oh, who is it now?
His name was Dennis Michael.
Dennis Michaels.
Dennis
Okay.
Michael. Huh.
Yeah.
Did he sing with the group?
No, he was just alone.
By himself. James said he forgot these people are up past midnight. They
They-
are.
yeah,
I mean,
they didn't
James,
forget.
We're just blown away that they would want to talk with us on this show. It's like so amazing, and we're so
It
thankful
is.
that
We
you will
really
stay up
appreciate
to
it.
hang out with
Well,
us and chat.
I'm still wide awake. I'm very
Good.
happy to be here.
We're wide awake.
So,
Of course, it isn't midnight here either.
one of your best works, I think, is Allies of Circumstance. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little synopsis?
I'm going to take it down so
Yeah,
we can
because
see your
we
face.
got her blocked there.
I want
There
to
we
see
go.
your face.
Can you give us a little synopsis of
This
Allies of
is one of
Circumstance?
my more unusual books. One of the main characters is Amelia Gresham. She, depending on which way you look at it, is or was a nurse, or she became a nurse in World War One, because she lost the love of her life when he was fighting in World War One. Her story continues where she meets and falls in love with a patient in a hospital who is wounded, basically, but he is, let's just say, a member of the enemy.
Oh,
The story then changes to the present day. It goes to the present day. There is a gentleman who works for the local council. He is bored with his job and he decides to move with his wife, and they buy a cottage. Now, this cottage, there are strange things happening. There are strange sounds in the loft. They go into a small barn in their garden. They find a portrait. Then, somehow, the portrait isn't there. This kind of thing. And gradually, as you read the book, because I don't want to spoil it for people.
No, don't give it all away.
let's not give it all away. I don't know if you saw that Robert just piped up and said, at least in Australia, the show begins at 9 a.m.
Robert's down
Good
under.
morning. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Robert.
But
You're in Queensland, right, Robert, if I remember correctly.
The readers will find certain links between Amelia and the cottage, and that's, I don't like, as I say, I don't want to give too much away, but it takes place in, it's a bit like a paranormal, but not. It does end, because I don't do novels that leave people thinking, because I hate those. I get cross with those. But they do, they make me very cross. But my ending says,
like a good twist.
Mm-hmm.
My ending says, I will leave you, the reader, to decide whether Amelia was right or wrong.
Oh, there you
go. That's like, which door?
Right. Which door do you
I just want everyone to know that Chanel's bothered by the humidity, not Humpty. Humpty is not melting her like a candle.
I was
It's
wondering what the
humidity.
heck she was talking about, but I wasn't going to say. It
All
was
right.
like,
But I loved writing that book.
Did you? That's
Well,
always fun when you love writing the book, you know?
But to be honest, I love writing all my books.
That's good. That's a good thing to like writing them.
well, I'll tell you what. I think what we should do is we should do a book giveaway of that book that you loved writing. How about that?
Yeah,
So
please do.
The first 5 people to email will win an ebook copy of Allies of Circumstance. And the email is carolanneyeomanson.author@gmail.com. And
Yeah, so Robert, even you can win either one of these books because they are
they're
emails.
ebooks, yeah.
They're ebooks. Website is CarolYeomansonBooks.com. CarolYeomansonBooks.com. You can find Carol on Facebook on Carol-Yeomanson-Kindle-Author, and on Instagram on Carol Yeomanson Author, and on email we just said it's Carol Ann Yeomanson Author@gmail.com. Oh, there's a dot before the author too.
Right.
So that's, let me spell that for people that are just listening. CarolAnneyeomanson
It could have
author
been.
at gmail.com.
I suppose it could have been a longer name. I'm not sure. So someone named Carter, right? Little short name.
Robert says that would be like a choose your own adventure, but choose your own ending instead of choose your own adventure. Yeah. Yep. Well, it'd be like the Lady of the Tiger. Remember that? We all read that in school, didn't we? Or is that just a States thing? Did you not read it? Oh, I'm older than my husband.
No, you don't. You don't actually choose your own ending. It does end. You don't choose your own ending.
Oh.
You just decide yourself whether Amelia was right to make the decision she made. So it does end. I do. She does make. There is an ending. Yeah. But it's up to you to decide: was she right to make that decision, or was she wrong?
All right, gotcha. Well, that sounds interesting. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit of some of your other books too. Actually, we've got some banners up here of some.
Yeah, we've got the Constellation Diamond Mystery.
Yep. Oh yes, this one. This, I always say, this one has got more twists and turns than probably every motorway in Europe. This one starts with a young girl who's got an antique shop. Now, she, unfortunately, during her lunch hour, forgets to lock the door of the shop.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is very unfortunate.
That's never good.
A young man opens the door of the shop and comes in. Suddenly, she turns around and he's standing there pointing a gun at her.
Ooh.
He has been sent by somebody. Once again, I don't want to spoil it for you.
No spoilers, yeah.
But the girl in the antique shop has something that a gang want. But what is it?
Okay,
she doesn't know.
Yeah.
She doesn't know. But the book goes on and on and on. But unfortunately, they're both struck by lightning and they fall in love with each other. I know.
A twist and a turn.
They go on the run together. It's full of intrigue. It goes across Europe. It takes in murder. It takes in drug dealing. It takes in rather nasty things, like one gentleman ends up in a pigsty being eaten by hogs.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like Midsummer to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I don't do what I would call nice, easy, that kind of thing, unless I'm doing a cozy mystery. And you know, cozy mysteries, you must do. You have to play by the rules. Yeah.
Oh,
it's very difficult for me, So
Robert says, so you could say they fell in love in a flash.
And Robert, I'm shocked you would say that.
No, actually, they fell in love while she was allowing him to take a bath in her house. And she gave him a drink while he was in the bath. Actually.
Ouch.
But anyway, they run and they run across Europe. Obviously, what they want, because you can tell from the title that what they want, or this criminal gang want, is a diamond.
A diamond, right?
Yeah. But the problem is, the big turn comes at the end.
Okay, don't give that away.
No,
I'm not.
And also, this one, how do you mend a broken doll?
Okay, another twist and turn.
Okay.
Oh, good.
That is a mystery. It's not about really fixing a doll, is it?
Who's the doll, Rob?
Oh,
that's a mystery.
Okay.
All right, I will give you the first few lines. Okay. Amy is married to a US naval officer.
Ah,
She thinks she's happily married until one morning he goes out for his normal early morning swim. But he is found dead floating in a swimming pool.
oh,
Hmm.
dun dun dun.
Then she finds out that her husband Ricky isn't quite the man she thought he was.
Excellent mystery story.
And then the US Navy find out that he wasn't quite the man they thought he was.
Not quite the naval officer they thought he was.
No.
Got it.
And it brings in the Russians, the Israelis, the Chinese once again. But where the doll comes in, is that Amy actually runs a doll shop.
Aha.
If you see what I mean. She
There you go.
actually lives in Windsor, which is renowned for things like dolls, because of Windsor Castle and the Royals. She runs a doll shop.
Interesting.
So once again, she has to run because Ricky has planted something on her that another government wants.
You were talking about your previous book about the fellow being eaten up by hogs. I just wonder, this is funny because we wrote a book called Flash Zombies, and it's not about zombies, it's about a flash mob. But anyway, there's one scene in there that we wrote together that takes place in like a storage unit where here in the States, I don't know if you have this in Britain, but they have these buildings where you can rent a certain amount of space and you can store things.
It's got like a garage door in the front of it, and you drive down in between the.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was in an air-conditioned one, right? And we had two of them when we were living in Miami, and and that's where we were living when we wrote the book. And we had a scene in there that scared me so much that I wrote it, that every time I went to our storage unit, I was terrified.
Looking over her shoulder.
I couldn't go alone anymore. I always had to have someone come, and I wrote it. Has that ever happened to you where you've scared yourself or whatever?
Definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But
we are thinking of these things. Somebody else can think of them, right?
Well, I think if you're going to write a thriller, then write it. Right. Give your readers what they want.
Yeah.
Write for your readers, not for you.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And
if you a thrill, it'll give them a thrill, right? If it scares you, it'll scare them.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to kill somebody off, do it. You can't say you can't say to somebody, "Excuse me, would you be so good as to let me stab you?"
Well, you could, but it's probably not a good idea. Yeah.
Do it.
Not recommended.
Do it harsh.
Be so kind to stand in front of my gun while I shoot you.
Carol, you got something else coming up before the end of the year, you think?
Definitely.
We won't say what.
We won't say what. But you got something to watch for, right?
Right.
I've got one historical novel
on the drawing board.
No, it's coming out in the fall, I believe, right? August.
Yeah. Oh, okay,
September.
that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is set in the time of Mary Queen of Scots.
Awesome.
And then there will be another thriller, which is set within the Royal Navy and will be espionage. And that will take in I hope, if I can get it together, the Israelis, that kind of thing. But it's a work in progress at the moment. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to take me.
Yeah, there might be some more twists and turns, but those of readers that follow Carol, you've got something to look forward to.
For sure.
Jude, we forgot to ask Jude.
We did, but we still have time to do that.
Do you have anything coming up, Jude?
Well, certainly I started Death at a Pace, which is set during lockdown, and it's about a detective, and it's like his story of his life during that time. And I'm sort of, I've got notes on continuing other series of that particular detective. So
that one's out right now, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's only just come out though. So
only just come out.
I think it was featured on Facebook today. Caleb
Pirtle did it.
and Linda.
That's very kind. Thank you
featured
very much.
It's on their website. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much.
Yeah. So
Carol and Jude, do you have any questions you'd like to ask each other after you've listened to each other speak?
Well, one thing I'd like to say to Jude,
Okay.
I really admire your stance against bullying in the workplace. You're fantastic. And good luck. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. That's the truth. I think we all do admire that, and it needs to be talked about. And it's,
It does.
I think it's hard to talk about, difficult to talk about, and, for all kinds of different reasons. But it does need to be talked about.
We've got a few more minutes, so if anybody in the audience has any more questions, now's the time to shoot them up on the screen.
Right.
So, got any more questions for either Jude or Carol?
Yes.
Either one. Let's see here. Oh, you can also find Carol's books on indiebooksource.com. We forgot to mention that. And let's see. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, I can always talk.
You can always talk. Well, that's true.
I can always say things. As all of you know that know me, I'm pretty much talk all the time. No, I don't have anything else to add, actually.
Okay.
Nope.
All righty.
No. I'm looking forward to, oh, wait a minute. Joe Congle said, not a question, but great show, everyone. Jude and Carol are fantastic. Yes, they are. Remember, Joe's going to be a guest on our show.
Right.
Coming
so
up.
stay tuned through September. He'll be there early September.
Yes.
Jude, I'm going to put you on the spot. Maybe like a 1 or 2 sentence piece of advice for the readers, for the audience.
Well, for the audience that are dealing with bullying, certainly communicate. Don't let it ever become some sort of dirty, dark secret in your life, because it will affect your mindset. It will affect how you interact with other people away from work. And certainly you want to feel well balanced. You're a worthy person, and you'll never understand, I don't think, when you get in the mindset of somebody who's a bully. Their issues aren't really about you. It's more they're not competent at something, and they take it out on you.
Okay.
Here's a good question. James would like to know, when were the ladies first published? Carol, you want to tell us when you were first published?
Ooh.
Approximately.
Trick question.
No, I'm trying to remember.
I know.
I think it was my editor is telling me 2018.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, all right. And
Perfect.
Jude, how about you? When were you first published?
Well, my first was a short story. It was set on a London bus called Loaded, and it came out in 2016.
2016.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
We were first published before that. I don't even remember.
2012, I think.
It's difficult to remember when you were first published. 2012 is when you were first published.
Back in the olden days.
Things have changed since then, though, actually, in the publishing world.
They have changed a lot.
They've changed since you guys first started publishing. I'm sure you've noticed the change.
Carol, do you have any last sentence or two bit of advice for your readers and followers? You don't have to have anything.
I think if I was going to say anything to any indie author out there, I would say stand strong and be proud that you are an indie author, because I think maybe Jude would agree. Would you, Jude?
Yes.
It's tough out there for indie authors.
Yes, it really is.
It is.
It is.
It's a tough world, because we get a lot of nastiness, and hatred from published authors who think they're better than we are. So I would say to every indie author, stand tall and be proud of what you are.
Paul Hollis says another great and very interesting show. Thanks, Rob, Joan, Jude, and Carol. Thank you, Paul. And Trish says, yes, great show. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I think that I like this. We used to call ourselves self-published, and now it's indie published, which is more accurate. And because there are a lot of indie publishers out there who are publishing indie authors, and that's a whole different scene, like you said, other than, if you're being published by one of the big publishing houses. So it's an interesting market, and it's an interesting field right now, and it's constantly changing. And there's nothing to, like an indie movie, that has no bad connotation, and neither does indie published. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Though
Well,
being published by a publisher is a good thing too.
Yeah, if you got,
If there's a
got somebody
publisher
that's
that
going
wants
to do
to
a
pick
lot
us
of
up, they can.
the background work, yeah.
Yeah.
Won't argue with that one.
No, exactly.
So, okay, well, Jude, thank you very much for
Yes.
joining us. We're going to pop you backstage, and we'll meet you back there in a little bit.
Yeah.
and thank you, Rob and Joan, so much. You're wonderful people, very inspirational, and thank you for having me on.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks. And Carol, we're going
Thank you.
to
Thank
pop
you.
you backstage too.
Thank you, Rob and June, and thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you for being
you're
our
welcome.
guest and
Thank
for
you.
staying up so late. And we'll see you in a few minutes.
See you in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that wraps that up. We have Jim Bauk and Bob Long, a MUFON investigator. And
MUFON, let me explain this because
Yeah,
I didn't
MUFON.
the last time I talked about it. MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network. I forget that not everyone has been following UFOs as long as we have, and not everyone is as crazy about it as we are. But Bob and Jim have been working in this field. I think Jim 50 years, and Robert has probably been in it 30, 35 years.
Mhm,
It's
something
called
like that.
Alien Abduction, the Control Factor. It's a
Go back
really
up
good
there.
book. I can't wait for them to be on because I have a million questions to ask them. And James says it sounds great. It is. It's going to be so great. James, you might even hear my own personal
But
UFO story that just happened
that's
in
not
May.
all. Along with the two MUFON people, we have Lisa O'Hare, who wrote Abducted and Furious, and it's based on personal experience.
Mhm.
So
So it should be interesting because Bob is a field investigator for abductees, and James was a field director
it
in
should,
MUFON. So
yeah, they spent years,
lot of research.
compiling all of these
Yeah.
reports that all these people that have seen UFOs and claim to be abducted, and they've compiled all of this stuff and studied
Yeah.
it. So they've got oh man, they've got a lot of experience.
So Joe said, I'm so intrigued by UFOs. Can't wait. And these people know what they're doing, Joe. I mean, they've
Yeah.
talked to everyone. They have inside sources that we don't. And Trish Pipkin says, I'm so excited. I am too. And James says he has a great story. Yeah, you've got to tune in, you guys. Any of you that have a
pass the
story,
word, and
we want to hear your story. I'm sure they would love to hear your. I know they want to hear your stories. And so that's next Wednesday.
yeah, and
I'm excited.
we'll be posting the July schedule tomorrow on our website, indiebooksource.com, and you can go to the podcast page there and listen to all the past episobat. They're all
Yep.
there for you to listen to. Yes, James, that's next week, the 7th, right here, same place, same bat station,
Yep.
same bat channel. That's how they said it, bat channel.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so we're all set. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just want to remind people to stay tuned for at 8:30 Inside the Drag Closet comes on after us. And don't forget, we're on TV on WLFEDB.com. Well, that's not where we're on TV. That's our radio station. We're on stream, but it's under Variety Unlimited, LGBTQ Friends, and Paranormal View. You can find us, of course, in Variety Unlimited. And I can't wait to have you all come back next week. And same beat, same time.
Bad time and bad channel.
Same bad time, same bad channel. Yes. Yeah. We're all old, aren't we?
Should know that, right?
To know that.
Okay. So let's see. All right. So until next time.
That's all, folks.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DB.com.
You've been listening to WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.